Turn that off. It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I am Steve. And, well, as you can tell, I'm not alone today.
You are not. So who do you have with you?
I don't know. Who do I have with me?
Yeah, this one guy that showed up at his house. I've been knowing this guy for about 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And longer than that. We're 50.
40 years.
Yeah.
Like close to 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long time, guys. Long time.
Yeah. So 5th grade. We'll just go with that. So figure out the age. From there.
No, we'll just go with long time. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, we'll go with a long time. 4th grade or 5th grade plus I'm 4 months older than he is. There you go.
Oh, so you're just going to throw that in his face?
Well, I used to. Yeah, I used to a lot. Like, hey, I got my driver's license first. Hey,
and now you don't want to be older, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, at this point, well, now it's just another number.
No, I get to say you're old.
Yeah, he gets to say that, but, you know, he's got that crappy birthday because it starts December 24th.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Not my fault.
I would have went down to, like, Secretary of State, so, hey, my birthday's now this other date.
This other day.
And make it January 1st.
Could have.
At least it's a party.
Yep.
And everyone celebrates it. Like the
And
whole world for
everyone
you.
celebrates your birthday.
That's right.
But you guys were, Scott came in for a very specific reason. We kind of talked about it last episode. So what's he here for? What's going on?
So every year Scott flies in. Last couple of years from flying in from Texas. Before that was Oklahoma.
Yep.
But he comes in once a year and we go to a Michigan game. So we were at the Michigan game this Saturday. Had an opportunity to, tailgate. It was a good thing and a bad thing, I guess, that the game was at noon.
Yes.
Right? Because, one, if it was a 3:30 game, you get to tailgate longer.
Right.
That's the bad. That would be the bad.
Right.
The good was that it was a noon game and that we didn't have to tailgate too hard, and we were able to do stuff after the game and come back and actually watch the rest of the football games on the TV on the motorhome outside with a fire. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's fun.
Best weather. Perfect.
Yep.
Certainly beats the Texas heat, I bet.
Oh, well. Yeah, definitely better than the Texas. Definitely.
About 30 degrees difference.
Yeah. But I bought a bottle of cognac. We sipped a little by the fire.
Yep.
Let me just say, it was very smooth, but it went straight to my head.
So you're talking about tailgating. What'd you have to eat? We got to talk about food.
Let's talk about food.
Yeah, so...
We had some quesadillas.
Quesadillas.
Breakfast quesadillas.
Right, yeah.
That was fantastic.
Sausage and bacon, eggs, cheese.
Had a choice of salsa or sour cream.
Yeah. So
it was hard to eat.
Yeah. So when we go tailgating, we're not typical tailgate people, like as far as food. We've had like Caesar salad, chicken Caesar salads, right? Which are really good.
Venison steaks.
Oh, there we go.
Regular hamburgers.
Venison mixed in with breakfast sausage. I think you might have had this one, JD. Maybe?
Yeah, I think I did.
Egg on top of it. Oh,
yeah,
that's a good one.
So what about dinner though? For when you're watching the rest of the game, the rest of the games there.
Dinner.
Well, after the game, it was Swiss cake rolls.
There we go. All right.
Oh yeah, we did have some chips and salsa
and a lot of bourbon.
and a lot of bourbon. We the day before though, we had salmon and shrimp.
Yeah, that was a good treat.
Off the Blackstone, so it was nice. Seasoned it up, got a nice blackened look on the salmon. grilled the shrimp, some lemon, some garlic butter.
We didn't eat bad.
No.
I mean, we were camping, but it wasn't really camping.
Yeah. Well, it's not really camping when it's a 37-foot motorhome, right?
I was trying to just
We had both ACs. We had the ACs running during the day.
Right.
It was still, it was warm for Michigan in September.
Yep.
But at night, man, it just cooled off. Like last night, I almost got up and turned the heat on because I got a little chilly. But yeah, we were watching TV. We got recliners. We had the rockers outside with the fire and the TV and the only bad thing about sitting outside is we were under an oak tree, and all the acorns kept dropping.
Yep.
And I got tagged right on the collarbone.
That's great.
So you're sitting in the motorhome, and all of a sudden you hear this ding, ding, ding. It sounds like ball bearings hitting the roof.
And you're waiting for it to hit. Where's it going to hit on the ground? Is it going to hit you?
Yeah.
Or something?
So he's laughing his butt off because I hit and I start ducking because I've already been hit a few times. So now I got a little PTSD. Hit my acorns. One tried to hit my drink, made me drop my. I was getting ready to put it in my mouth, and it hit me right on the thumb. I lost the chip, the salsa. It was just. It was funny for him.
I never got hit, so.
So we pulled the awning out, and then we're like, well, let's have a fire. I'm like, well, I don't want the embers hitting the awning, so we had to put the awning in. So it was like open season. But it was a good time all weekend.
It does sound like it.
Yeah, went to a high school football game on Friday. Belleville versus Franklin. The quarterback at Belleville is actually a 5-star.
5-star.
He's a 5-star Michigan recruit for Michigan, trying to. So
2025.
Yeah, class of 2025.
He's a junior. So good mechanics.
Yeah,
good mechanics. Good arm. Needs to work on some decision making.
Yeah, I think he just needs to see the field a little bit better, but it's just something that. My thing, I kept telling him was, as I was watching it, he's been in the system for 3 years and he still stares down his receiver.
Yep.
Right? So he's not looking at the field and trying to, making those reads. So again, he's 17 years old.
Right.
I'm talking about him like he's already at the next level, but
He's not JJ right now.
he is not. Yeah. And JJ wasn't even. I was worried about him when he came in. Like, it's great that he can throw the ball because this kid can throw the ball from Belleville.
Yeah.
Right.
Strong.
He's very strong, but he's got to again work on some touch. Maybe put some air into the ball a little bit, let his receivers run under it. But all in all, I mean, he looked good. So, fingers crossed. See what happens. But we also talked about, since that kind of runs right into our Michigan conversation, is we talked a little bit about whether Jim Harbaugh is going to be back next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
so
between the two of us, right?
yeah,
Just not so much because of the NCAA and thing. I think he's fed up with the way college football is run, right? And how kids can say they're going to do this, and then they can turn around and do whatever they do something else, right? So there's no
are you
commitment.
talking
levels.
with the transfer portal?
Yep.
Yep.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no commitment from those players. But so we think that this will be his last year.
A lot of it, I think, has to do, especially if they win the Big Ten, beat Ohio, and I think they'll win their first playoff game.
Yep.
They'll definitely leave at that point. That's just the cards
you're-
starting to open up. And
So you'd expect if he does decide to do that he'd return to the NFL?
yep, I just don't know sure if this is the right year to do that because we were talking and not sure what vacancies would be open.
Yeah.
And we didn't think it would be a big city that he'd go to. It would be more low key. We both agreed that Seattle would be the best place.
Yeah. Pete Carroll's not getting any younger,
He might retire.
No.
right? And as much energy as he's got, I saw the preseason stuff that they did with him where he was moving out and actually running and throwing on the run. I'm like, he's in his 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost positive he's in his 80s. But at some point, you gotta hang up the whistle. We think that'd be a great place for him to be. Puts him back on the West Coast where we think he wants to be.
Well, just for clarity's sake, he's 72.
72. Well,
yeah. Belichick is 71.
71. Well, they're both old guys.
Yeah.
Right. And Belichick could be retiring soon too, but I don't know if New England's that place.
Right.
So, but we just felt Seattle actually runs the kind of offense that Jim Harbaugh likes already.
Okay.
They're a run-first team.
Defensive.
And on a defensive side. So, I
see your point.
Yeah, that's Seattle all day. So, guys out in Seattle, we said it first.
Well,
right?
We'll get this posted real quick. So, but okay, let's talk about the actual game though.
Yep,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all fun and games. You guys had a great time tailgating. Eating good food, drinking. But tell me about the game. Like, what were your thoughts starting in the first quarter?
Let's just first quarter. Yeah, okay. So we're just sitting there. Rutgers gets the ball, 69 yards, touchdown. We're like, just stunned.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. And we look at each other and we're like, oh, it's going to be that kind of game.
The first two plays, they were solid defensive plays.
Yep.
They had, I think it was 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 8 or something like that. And they got big one. Coverage was the bad problem. Sanders still letting go pass to the next zone. Linebacker was underneath. Safety was over top, and they missed them both, and he just took off. So they got that fixed. Obviously, that didn't happen again. But, we were like, okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a fun game.
We talked about Rutgers is a scary team, right? So in the last 3 years, if you look at the game tape of Rutgers and Michigan, Rutgers has given us fits, right?
Right.
It was a high scoring. It was a shootout 3 years ago. 2 years ago, they were actually winning. I think it was like 17-10 before we came out, and it was like 40-17.
Yeah.
But they played us hard. They play us tight every year. Greg Schiano's defense is really good. So we were already I was stressed about the game for sure.
Yep.
But the first quarter, when that, but after that, Michigan got the ball. I think they were 3 and out.
They went 3 and out.
They went 3 and out right after that touchdown in the first quarter. But they figured it out because they had at least 3 drives of more than 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So,
okay.
When you look at the first half, I'm trying to think of what the score was as we're going through.
First half was 14-7.
Touchdown pass was to, I believe it was Loveland in the corner.
Yep.
Fantastic throw. So it was fantastic. It was a good first half, first quarter. Defense started to buckle down.
Yeah.
If you took away the 69-yard touchdown pass, Rutgers didn't have 100 yards in the first half.
Correct.
So we were like, okay, that's sound. And when we come to the second half, it was a completely different team. They just started to buckle down on the offensive line and start moving the ball.
Yep.
Running the ball. Corum did really well. They got Donovan more in the passing, which was, I think, helps open up a lot of different things for them down the road. Specifically, or both of them on the same time, in the field at the same time.
Right.
In the backfield. And then if Donovan rolls out, they can do this little screen pass to the out, and he's at full speed and get some yards. So I think there's a lot of different things they can do. with those two in the backfield.
Yeah. And I like seeing them both on the field at the same time, because that just has the defense guessing, right? While Donovan is more, I think, the pass catcher out of the backfield, because they'll split him out and put him in the slot with Corum in the backfield. But they'll start them both in the backfield, and I think defenses look at that, and they have to choose, right? Mm-hmm. Who's going to get the ball?
Yep.
So it definitely changes our offense.
Blake started running better, made some better cuts this time.
He did.
I think the first cut he made, it was kind of hesitant, but after that, he started making what I saw last year, which was a good sign.
Yeah,
he's fully back 100%.
Yeah, and that was the thing. As the first few games with Corum after the knee injury last year, he's coming through the hole, right? I don't know if he was seeing it well. He was really seeing it, because there were a couple of times where we had a really good shot from the back as it opened up and he would step through. And you're like, oh yeah, that's the old guy. That's the old Blake Corum.
And I really enjoy seeing all the big uglies pushing the pile like 5 yards without Corum getting touched. It's like just like a big bulldozer. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was 14-7 a half. Now you're talking as if they were playing old Michigan football like later on, and so starting to play better. So even with it being 14-7 at the half, was there any concern that it was still going to be one of those games, or did you know at that point Michigan's going to start taking over?
No, I think because they scored at the end of the second quarter and we were getting the ball.
Yeah,
and it was like, hey, if we get the ball in the third quarter and we drive it, it's 21-7. We're on coast, if you will.
Yeah.
And defense is going to start playing. I didn't have a concern after that point.
Yeah, but what happened is they came out, I think they were 3-and-out with the ball in the second half. Right?
I think the first one they drove the 8 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it was the long drive.
Yeah.
So they got the ball, and they scored a field goal, and it wasn't a touchdown.
Okay.
But it was an 8-minute drive, and they scored 3 points. So they really just limited the amount of times Rutgers had the ball.
Yep.
Because of those long drives. While it wasn't super flashy, Roman Wilson didn't have a great day, but he made a couple of catches, when we needed them. Some of those third downs where, he just opened up across the middle, and the middle was open, right?
All day.
I don't know if they were playing too high almost all day, but that middle of the field was just there between the hashes, and JJ, found it.
That's what I like about their running game and their passing game. They have to respect the running game, so they'll pull their linebackers in. Then they have a too deep zone. They just have a little crossing route behind the linebackers, and it's open all day long. Only time they can actually play games if they're if we're behind the chains.
Right.
That's when they can start mixing it up. But we were ahead of the chains almost the whole game.
Almost the whole game. Yeah. JJ threw that one back shoulder throw in the end zone.
Yep.
And when I saw it, I thought it was going to be offensive pass interference because of the way it was on the opposite end of the field of us. And it looked like he pushed and turned and went like this. But when you actually saw the replay, it wasn't like that at all. But so I was a little nervous. But when it comes to Rutgers, I think near the end, they were getting a little mouthy.
Yeah, they were getting a little edgy.
Right? And Michigan, I just think played really classy football. Didn't let that bother them. They let Rutgers kind of do what Rutgers was going to do. And Michigan played Michigan football, which I really appreciate seeing, right? Because they're still kids, right? And you get someone jawing at you, and they want to turn around, and they're going to do the same thing right back. But Michigan didn't do that, and I was very impressed with how they handled that. Because there were we were just complaining about the refs more than almost anything.
spotting the ball.
Yeah, because
It appeared that they were a half a yard to a yard, always short to what we thought. I mean, Michigan's got a big, huge, nice screen, so it's like you're watching it on TV
yeah.
at the same time.
So you can see, you're like, especially on the replays, right? You see the replay and you're like, okay, he's down at the 35 and they're going to spot you at the 36.
Yeah.
That's not right. You know? There were several instances where that happened. And I think, there was a couple of them where they went on fourth down.
Yep.
Michigan only punted the once, right? One time that whole game. And not because, they didn't ever have the opportunity to. There was just, other than that one time, they went for it on fourth down. Yep. They had faith because it was 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And they had faith in their guys, like, hey, we're just going to go get this done. And they did. Like you said, the offensive line on the run game, when they went right at them, they're strong.
Yep. When they get the extra tackle as a tight end, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the big uglies up there and pushing people around.
Yeah. I still think there's still work to be done on the pass block. I'd like to see JJ have a little bit more time maybe in the pocket.
Yep.
Although he does throw really well on the run.
Yep.
But
He does.
we saw him throw 3 interceptions the week before when he was throwing on the run.
Yep.
So I kind of like to avoid that in the future. But it was a solid showing. And like you said, other than that first drive by Rutgers, the game itself was pretty much handled by Michigan. Rutgers did have some drives, but the defense stepped up.
Yep, and I think going forward, next week's Indiana away, so that's going to be first game away. We'll see how they handle.
I thought it was Nebraska.
Is it Nebraska next week or is it Indiana?
Oh no, Nebraska's next
Nebraska.
week.
Okay.
Yep.
Good call.
Yeah.
So again, still away game. Nebraska's a little bit tougher than Indiana.
Yeah.
Got good crowds, so it's going to be a test for us to get off strong that first quarter.
Absolutely, and that's I think the whole thing. They gotta put a good offensive drive together and a good defensive stand to start the game to really just set the tone for the rest of the game. And I think if they can do that, Michigan, it seems like every game they've won the coin toss, and they've deferred every game. So that just means that they're getting the ball, start the second half, and they're playing defense to start the game. So if they can get that stop, come down and get a score on their first drive, and then the first drive of the second half and score, to me, that just sets the tone for the rest of the game.
All right, so in 4 games this year so far for Michigan, they've scored 30 more points in all 4 games, but never more than 35. And the most points they've let up was just the 7 points to UNLV as well as Rutgers.
Yep.
Now, looking ahead at their schedule, between Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana State, Penn State, Purdue, Maryland, and of course Ohio State to close out the year. Aside from Ohio State, because that'd be an easy answer, what team do you fear the most? Is it going to be like Penn State, Maryland? What do you think?
Maryland and Penn State.
But yeah, those 2 games, last 3 games of the season are our hardest schedule.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, their last 3 games in a row.
Yeah. And Penn State yesterday against Iowa, I mean, they just dominated.
Yep.
They dominated Iowa on both sides of the ball. Iowa only had 75 yards total offense the entire game. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
And Iowa's new quarterback is Michigan's old quarterback, Cade McNamara.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reason why he had to leave and J.J. McCarthy took his job. And you could see it out on that field. It was not good for them.
Right.
Iowa had some bad things happen to them.
Oh yeah, they
So
had
some bad luck,
yeah.
but other than that, it just
Very sound.
yeah. Penn State played great on both sides of the ball, so they are a super scary team.
And Maryland, they got good offense, not as good of a defense, but their offense is a lot better, so they can score points.
Yep.
I think their offense is better than Penn State's offense, but Penn State's defense is so much better than Maryland's.
Yeah. I just feel like Maryland's offense scores at a can score faster.
Yep.
Right. It's just the way that's designed. And Talia Tagalo, how you say his last name? It's Tua's brother.
Yeah, Tagovailoa.
Quarterback.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I got to figure it out. Tagovailoa. We'll go. And if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. But anyway, he's a really good quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, and he came. He played at Alabama under his brother, and when he transferred, when he left, he transferred to Maryland. So, it's been his team for the last 2 years, and you can definitely see the difference between last year and this year. Yeah, he's reading the defenses. He knows where his players are supposed to be. So Maryland's going to be a fight.
Yep, for sure.
And we're playing at Maryland, right?
And at Penn State.
And at Penn State. So
Tough games.
It is. And I mean, we watched the Ohio State Notre Dame game yesterday, and it was probably one of the best football games we've seen in a long time.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we both wanted neither team to win. But lesser of two evils, we wanted Notre Dame to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? But, I don't know. Ohio State, the first couple of games, I was like, well, maybe they're not going to be that team. But they showed us something against Notre Dame. So, like you said, the last 3 games of the year is not going to be easy. And I think Minnesota, we have to worry about.
Yeah, they don't have much of an offense.
Yep.
But, yeah, still have to worry about that because we play at Minnesota.
Right. And
Now, I know.
And they've just been finding a way to win.
I know that last couple games, State's looked terrific. A lot of that has to be some distraction with their head coach, but without really talk about that specifically, Michigan is playing at Michigan State, and that always seems to be a dogfight too.
Yep. Doesn't matter what the record is or anything. It's just backyard football.
Well, and I think JD, you and I have talked about it. The Big Ten just doesn't get enough respect for the talent on the teams in this league, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it's a Big Ten game, those are all dogfights, right? They are. And everyone talks about, it's just the Big Ten. Well, no, it's not just the Big Ten. It's not just the Big Ten.
Well, I was watching something this one guy was saying. I wish I could credit him, but I don't remember who it was that I was watching. But he was kind of comparing SEC and was talking about how much of a fraud the SEC actually is. And his reasoning behind the SEC being a fraud is because they play less conference games in the SEC than any other conference. Yep. So even if you play just one more conference game, all the teams together, that's one more loss, like half the league is going to take, which would then prevent you from getting into bowl games and stuff like that. Yep. But by playing people in other conferences, especially weaker teams, that will prevent that conference from losing so many games and then get more of the teams inside the actual bowl games. So I thought that was a pretty interesting point that again, I wish I could credit him, but that was a pretty interesting point that he was making.
I remember you sent me that article or that video. He talked about that. Yeah. I was like, I did not realize the SEC didn't play as many conference games.
Yeah.
But
especially this year, they're not as
good
as they have been in the past.
Yeah, and then what's left of the Pac-12, they're all playing really, really well.
Yep.
And we're getting 4 of those teams getting to the Big Ten next year. So the competition is only going to get harder.
Very hard.
And I'm wondering, because there's so many teams in our league now, if they're going to go from 3 non-conference games to 2 to try and get more of those league games.
Good.
Right.
But yeah, that schedule's already they had kind of a tentative schedule for what it was going to look like next year, because next year the Big Ten's going away from the divisions, so it's just going to be a straight 16 teams? 18 teams, right? So there's no East and West.
Top 2 champions.
Yeah, just the top 2 teams are going to play. So I think when you look at it in that respect, I like that idea, because one side right now is always
Right.
yeah. Penn
It's very
State,
one-sided.
like between Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, 2 of those teams get screwed because they got 1 loss.
Yep.
Right.
A 1-loss team can't get to your conference championship,
But a
right?
4-loss team can.
But the 4-loss team can. So it definitely needed to be looked at. I'm glad they're going to go with the straight schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just let the chips fall where they do. I think that also helps because next year they're expanding the playoffs. So perfection doesn't necessarily have to be the order of the day. Because right now, if you really want to make the playoffs, the 14 playoff, you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Which means you've got to play 13 perfect games.
Yep.
And that's just to make it to the playoffs. So it's almost impossible to do that year in and year out. Now teams do it, but look at even Alabama. Alabama is struggling, right? Georgia's had its moments, right, where they've been tested. And now Texas is an upstart now. Florida State, right? They're stepping into the picture. So there were some new teams in that top 10 that are hungry this year.
I mean, the Utes are 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utah, Oregon, USC, they're all in the top 10.
Yep. So all of those teams, and if you take the 4 teams out of the Pac-12 and put them into the Big Ten this year, how many ranked teams does the Big Ten have?
We would have a lot.
Yeah, it'd be like 8 or.
You'd have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, USC, Oregon.
And that's
So
after
1, 2,
UCLA.
3.
It's top 10.
UCLA is not in the top 10.
Not in the top. So, I mean, I'm telling you, the Big Ten is going to take over.
We hope so.
Right? And it would be awesome to see in that expanded playoff in the semifinals 4 Big Ten teams playing each other.
Well, a lot of the teams that we're used to seeing in the top 10. I mean, as we mentioned, there's a lot of new teams in there.
Yep.
So some teams have to fall out, and you're talking about Notre Dame, Alabama, LSU. A lot of teams that you just perennial top 10 teams, even top 5.
Right. And Notre Dame just fell out because Ohio State beat them, and I'm sure they were already number 9.
Right.
I can't imagine that they fell very far, having lost to a number 5 or 6 team, whatever Ohio State was.
No, they didn't fall far, but right now they're at 11.
11. Yeah. So I just Notre Dame's a good team, and I think the league needs to be on notice because they're going to be coming after people. USC needs to watch out, right? And Colorado, while they had a great start, 3-0, they did not look very good.
They're going to have a hard time getting to a bowl game.
Yeah, they're going to struggle in conference play.
Yeah, they just fell out of the top 25 altogether.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what kind of impressive is Fresno State made number 25.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They make, not every year, but every other year, every 3 years, they make it into that top 20. They're in that 20 to 25 range, Fresno State.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a good program.
So the four teams they played are Purdue, Eastern Washington, Arizona State, and Kent State. But their wins over like Arizona State 29-0 and Kent State 53-10.
Yep.
So they've been putting points on the board for sure.
Yeah, Fresno State, that's where the Cars played, right? David and Derek.
Yes.
Yep.
So they do get talent. David Carr why he didn't do well at the next level. I don't know that it's all his fault. He got put on a
not his fault.
team.
I mean,
Right?
he was on the expansion Texans. I mean, there's not
Exactly.
much that you can do with that scenario. Like,
And it just it can destroy a player. Right? So when you're at the top of your game at every level, and then you get there and you don't find success, and you don't find it early, it can be bad.
well, he was also being sacked like 55 times a year or something ridiculous too. So
Yeah, but like I said, the Big Ten is going to be a force to be reckoned with. This year too.
Yep.
Right. I think Maryland is going to make by the time we're playing Maryland will be ranked.
Oh, absolutely.
okay.
If I had to guess, they're going to probably be in that 15 to 20 range by the time we play, if not higher. They could be in the top 15 by the time we play.
Wow. Okay.
In 2 weeks,
All right.
Maryland and Ohio play.
Yeah, because Maryland
Yep.
and Ohio State play in 2 weeks. Ohio State's got a bye next week, and then they play Maryland. If Maryland can pull that game out, watch out.
Maryland has Indiana next, then Ohio State, as mentioned, Illinois, Northwestern, Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan, then Rutgers.
Yeah. So, obviously, Ohio State's going to be a big game for them. Penn State's going to be a big game for them. But I still think they're that talented on offense that they're going to be ranked when we play them.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're worried.
Yeah.
But we worry every week because,
You never know.
anything can happen. An Appalachian State could come in and beat us.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Got to bring that up again. That's painful.
Because we never forget. Because we never want it to happen.
All right. So, real quick, for the two of you, offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, and final prediction for the season for Michigan, including playoffs. What do you think's going to happen?
Okay. Offensive player. I'm going to go with Blake Corum. He had 91
All right.
yards. He looked a lot better, more comfortable back there. Defensive player, Mike Sandestro, because that's easy because of the pick six.
Right.
I mean, his conversion from receiver to cornerback has just been almost seamless. And he is proven to be a dominant player at the cornerback position.
Do you think he's a first rounder?
He's getting there.
I think he's probably late first. Probably he might be that guy that slides like Brian Branch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people, because there's going to be enough game tape after this year, because that'll be 28 games of game tape with him playing cornerback.
Yeah.
That's more than enough for anybody, whether he converted or not, right, to determine. So I definitely think he's a day one pick.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you want Scott to give his players of the game, or do you want to do the your predictions yet?
Oh, I'll let him
First.
go.
All right.
So I agree with Blake Corum, but also going to tag it with Dom and Edwards. He kind of got a. We were pinned back in our end of the field, and they had a nice little swing pass where he was all by himself, and that started that drive. And I think he's going to be more and more used in those type of places. He might not have the most yards or anything like that, but he's going to be a player to move the chains and to put some excitement.
Yeah.
And push it down the field.
The impact plays.
Yep.
Yep.
And then offensively, I'm going to go with the offensive line. I thought they did a really good job this week. I think I only gave up 1 sack, but I think they're doing a much better job. They're starting to gel, starting to know each other better. The pick and pull plays have been working pretty well, so I'm going to give it to the offensive line.
Okay. And final predictions for the year for Michigan.
I'm going to go 13-1.
And the one is?
The loss in the playoffs.
Off in the playoffs.
So, I think they have an experienced squad that while the games are going to be close, the Maryland, the Penn State, the Ohio State, I still think they can win all that. And 13-1 sounds good.
Okay, so losing the first
The
playoff
national
game. Then.
championship game. Yeah.
Oh, you got to go to the national championship.
Yeah. Losing the national championship game
Okay.
to probably Georgia again.
No.
Yeah,
think
Georgia's
that
not
could be
looking like
okay.
old Georgia right now.
I don't know who it's going to be. I think USC, Florida State's going to be in there.
I think USC is going to have a hard time with Notre Dame.
Sure. Doubt that.
So, yeah. Again, it's that thing about having to be perfect.
Yep.
So you lose a game, you might even have an opportunity.
Right.
So you gotta say, hope for the best. 13-1.
All right. I guess that
13-1, and they lost one, and then they win the national championship. Who knows?
Sure.
if they win the national championship, I think we'd all be very ecstatic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's been a long time coming. 26 years this year.
Yep.
Since
yeah,
the
the
last.
last time they won it was even a tie. They shared it, so it wasn't really.
Hey, shut up.
That doesn't mean
I'm just saying, it still hurts a little bit when they
It
have
does
to
hurt a
split
little
it.
bit because we were the better team that year.
Both of them got lucky and shouldn't have made that one play and the catch the end zone was not correct.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, Scott, appreciate you joining us a little bit. It was nice to have you on again.
Thank you very
First
much.
time on video, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're excited. But thanks for being on. Definitely appreciate it.
Go blue.
Go blue.
Go blue. All right. And with that, I think we'll be done with Michigan. And appreciate you guys listening. Stay safe, travel well, and talk to you next time.
See you guys soon.
Go blue.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.